Squashes are abundant this time of year. It's fall, and one thing I can think of to do with squashes is make pie. What types of squashes can you use to make pie? You can use butternut squashes. You can use, of course, pumpkins. This is a little mini pumpkin, but of course there's the big pie pumpkins, right?
Yeah.
And the kind of squash we're going to use today to make a pie is called kabocha squash. You can see that it's got a nice dark green skin on the outside, but look how deep orange it is on the inside. That means it's super sweet. Welcome to our channel. This is Christine's Natural Kitchen. If you're coming back, glad to have you. If you're new here, also glad to have you. And we're making this video in collaboration with Basil Bandwagon Natural Market, one of our favorite places to shop. So we're gonna need to cut this squash and cook it. So what I'm gonna do is just cut it in half. This is where you wanna have a really good sharp knife. I've got a nice Japanese knife. I cut one piece off and then I'm just putting that flat side down on the cutting board, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna hack through here. Oh my
Die.
goodness, that's a tough squash.
Go.
Well, now you get to take the seeds out.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get a big spoon.
Spoon.
All right, so here's your spoon and Mommy's spoon.
spoon.
Now we get to scoop out all the seeds. So this is where you just want to kind of get in there, take all the seeds out. I know it's kind of tricky, right? You need a little help? You want me to get it started? Here, you take mine. We'll trade.
Come on. Let's wait.
We'll trade. Of course, if you don't want to go through all this from scratch business, you can just use canned squash puree. That's fine. Oh, we're going old school here.
Funny.
That's funny. I know there's a lot of seeds jumping around here, huh? So you want to use 8 to 10 dried apricots to make your pie crust, and if they're a little dry like these are, you can just put them in some water. I had these soaking already, that's why the water is a little brown. But we're going to soak these in some warm water. I'm actually going to put this on the stove and warm them up for a little bit on low and let them sit for maybe 10 or 15 minutes just to soften them up. Also for the pie crust, I'm going to use 1 cup of sunflower seeds and 1 cup of pecans, and I'm going to lightly toast these in a dry skillet for about 5 minutes or so until they're nice and golden on kind of a medium-low heat. And I'm going to toast the nuts separate from the seeds. So also going in the crust are 1.5 cups of gluten-free rolled oats. And I'm going to lightly toast these as well over medium-low heat for about 5 minutes, just like the nuts and seeds. While my oats are toasting, I'm going to go ahead and grind up my sunflower seeds and pecans. So I'm putting them in a food processor. Next, add your oats and grind those up as well. You're going for a nice, fine, flour-like meal. Now, one by one, we're gonna go ahead and add our apricots. We'll just add maybe, 2 or 3 at a time, grind it together and see how it's binding, and then add more as needed. And if you have soaked your apricots or cooked them like I did to soften them, you'll just wanna squeeze off some of that liquid so it doesn't get too moist in your pie crust. So you can see it's starting to come together a little bit, and now my daughter Anya is gonna go ahead and add the remaining apricots. Go ahead, honey, you take those and put them in there. Whoops, got a little bit of the soaking liquid in there, that's okay. And now Anya's adding a half teaspoon of sea salt. Go ahead. We also have 1/2 cup of the Bob's Red Mill gluten-free baking flour. And last but not least, we have a tablespoon of sesame oil. Now you can see that it's coming together nicely, and I can actually make it like stick together. However, I still want a little bit more moisture in there. I saved some of the soak water from the apricots, and I'm just gonna add a little bit of that in there just for a little extra binding. Just a couple teaspoons or so. You don't want it to get too wet. There we go, a nice squeezable dough. That's perfect, it holds its shape. So we're in the home stretch now with the pie. Anya is lightly oiling our pie plate. How about it, sweetheart?
Yeah.
He was very serious here. So we just put a little, maybe like a half a teaspoon of sesame oil in the pie plate. She's lightly greased that all around. You gotta get the sides too, honey. Okay. And we've got our crust mixture ready to go. And then over here we have our cooked squash, which we're going to, ooh, watch out, baby, that's hot. We're going to drain it. We cooked it until it was fork tender, so the 20 minutes was perfect. I'm just gonna drain off that extra cooking liquid, but I'm gonna keep it just in case we need it. It's very sweet and delicious. It actually makes a nice little drink too. But we're gonna keep that in case we need a little extra liquid when we puree the squash. Okay, so there it is. We'll just let that cool off a little bit. You can see our squash. We're gonna scoop that in there. This is a non-rolled crust, which is nice, time saver. You don't have to bother with your rolling pin, rolling it out. You're literally just pressing it into your pie plate. Okay, and who knows, we may not need quite all of this. Let's see. You can always like make a little extra mini one if you feel like it's a little too thick for you. So we're gonna start out with a little bit less. And we're gonna press it in. We do need moist hands for this, so we're gonna dip our hands in here, pull up your sleeves. We're gonna make our hands just a little wet. And this is where we're just going to evenly press the crust. Yep, I know. Yep, you do it. So you put your hands in there.
So, again.
Yep, the idea is to just press it evenly, and you wanna press it up the sides as well. I am gonna put a little bit more of our crust mixture in here just so I have enough to work up my way up the sides. It does indeed look like I will need all of this crust mixture, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put it all in there. Now that we have our pie crust ready, we're gonna go ahead and mash up our squash. And I'm just using a potato masher to do this. So now we have 3 cups of the cooked squash puree in the food processor. We're adding 3/4 cup of pure maple syrup. We're adding 2 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice, but feel free to add more if you like. We've got 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. For the milk, I'm using coconut milk that does not have any guar gum added, but you could use almond milk. Now I'm adding a 1/4 cup of arrowroot, but you can use cornstarch instead. We're adding 1.5 teaspoons of agar powder. Some people have told me they can even find this at Walmart. Go ahead, honey, you dump it in. That's 1.5 teaspoons. So agar is a vegetarian form of gelatin. We're also adding a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. You could add even up to 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt. I really like the Redmond sea salt. You'll probably have to scrape down the sides a little and then give it another puree. So now we're ready to pour our filling right into the pie shell. Ready, honey?
Yeah.
I love it that this is one of those pies that's good for you. You get vitamin A in the squash, right? And then you want to smooth it off. So why don't you help me smooth it? Yeah, you do it. Here you go. Here, you do it. And then we're going to bake this at 425 for 10 minutes to kind of set the top, and then lower the oven temperature to 350 and bake it for another 45 to 50 minutes. The key with this pie is once it's done, you want to let it sit at room temperature till it's nice and cool, and then you want to refrigerate it overnight before slicing it. I know, it takes patience, but that's what we're gonna do.
Guys.
So after sitting in the refrigerator overnight, the pumpkin pie consistency is what I would call perfect. It's like a cheesecake, nice thick consistency. I don't know if you can see there, but it just really slices perfectly. If, however, you like your pie a little bit more soft and custardy, then just use a little bit less of either the arrowroot thickener or the agar sea vegetable thickener. You can cut either one of those back, and it will make your pie a little bit more soft and custardy, and Anya's piece of pie is flying away. All right, we better taste this. You ready to taste it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's dig in. Cheers. What do you think?
Good. Oh my God.
Really good. I always take too big of a bite and then I can't talk with my full mouth here. So enjoy making your squash pie. Comment below if you make it and any variations you make, like using butternut squash or anything different like that. I always love to hear from you guys. Thanks again for watching, and it's always fun cooking with you.